Welcome everybody. I would like to start our event, which is the Holocaust Memorial, which will be held today in the form of the panel discussion. My name is Ukavini and I will be the moderator of today's panel. Our panel was previously supposed to be held on the 27th of January, which is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, designed by the UN resolution, but unfortunately due to the pandemic we had to postpone that event. But still we decided to organize it today without the audience in the room, but with the panelists here in the Polish embassy. So first of all, I would like to welcome all our guests, Mr. Rabbi Feldman, Rabbi of the Jewish community of Iceland, Ambassador, Deputy Blanco Ambassador to Germany, Chargé d'Affaires of the United States, Harry Kamian, and Ambassador Gerard Kruszyński, Ambassador of the Republic of Poland to Iceland. And now I would like to ask Mr. Ambassador Gerard Kruszyński to take the floor.
It's my great honor to welcome such distinguished guests to the Holocaust Memorial Commemoration. This year, the Polish Embassy organized this celebration together with Rabbi Feldman, Rabbi of Iceland, the Embassy of Germany, and the Embassy of the United States. Now, I would like kindly invite Rabbi Abraham Feldman to take the floor and to commemorate the victims of Holocaust.
Good evening. Thank you to each of you for joining us this evening for this important event. I'd like to extend my gratitude to the Polish ambassador, to the German ambassador, and to the acting US ambassador for coming together and partnering in organizing tonight's event and spreading awareness and education of the Holocaust in Iceland. Tonight we remember the Holocaust. We remember the 6 million Jews, men, women, and children who were systematically tortured and murdered for no other reason other than being a Jew. Jewish tradition teaches that every person, every individual is an entire world. The murder of a single individual is the destruction of an entire world. And saving a single individual is saving and rebuilding an entire world. I will now take a moment to recite a prayer for the victims of the Holocaust. God, full of mercy, defender of widows and fathers of orphans, be not silent or restrained regarding the blood which was spilled like water. Grant proper rest beneath the wings of your presence, in the great heights of the holy and pure, who like the brilliance of the heavens give light and shine, for the souls of multitudes of thousands, men, women, boys, and girls, who were killed, slaughtered, burnt, suffocated, and buried alive, in the lands torched by the hand of the Nazi oppressor and its followers. All of them holy and pure, may the Garden of Eden be their resting place. Therefore, may the Master of Mercy shelter them in the shelter of his wings for eternity, and bind their souls with the bond of life. God is their inheritance, and may they find peace in their resting place. And let us say, Amen. Thank you.
And now I would like to invite you to listen to the traditional Jewish song, which is called Ami Magin, and it will be performed by Nikodem Fach. that after the panel discussion we will open the Q&A, so you will be able, all people joining us online, to also ask the questions. So we will open up the panel, and I would like to ask Ambassador of Germany, Dietrich Becker, to take the floor.
Thank you very much. Dear Ambassador, dear Rabbi Feldman, thank you very much for having organized this event on the occasion of Yom HaShoah. It's an emotional event, especially for me as a German ambassador, to have the chance to commemorate the Holocaust side by side with friends like the Rabbi and the Polish ambassador and the American Chargé. Commemorating the Holocaust together with the Jewish communities all over the world is moving and an honor. How can we find the right words against the background of the horror of the Holocaust? And it's more than 6 million victims. I cannot. But we also cannot remain silent. Perhaps we should simply cry out once and never again. To commemorate and remember the Holocaust in these events like today is already one of the cries, never again. A cry which should be done in every country, and every year, and every day. There should be 6 million or more candles which usually are used at such an event. It is impossible to imagine 6 million people killed. Countless victims, often unaccounted. Millions of daughters losing their mothers and fathers. Millions of mothers losing their children. Millions of fathers not returning home. Millions of grandmothers seeing all their relatives deported and never return. Million loving couples separated by brutally separated, tortured, abused, and murdered. Only one family thrown into this horror would have been enough, but merely cases. No words can describe this. How many tears and cries. The Holocaust is not comparable to any other historic event in its size and horror, and especially the way it was organized. What does this mean for us humans today? What does this mean also to Iceland? There's at least one lesson we must learn from the Holocaust. Simply never again. Everybody should ask himself, what can I do that this will never happen again? We must be aware the Holocaust was possible because of widespread anti-Semitism in Germany, in Europe, and around the world. In Nazi Germany, a thin layer of civilization broke down. Anti-Semitism resulted in looking aside, active discrimination, deportation, and mass murder and genocide. The lessons we all learn from this: stop any kind of anti-Semitism, speak out against it. Any small anti-Semitic behavior, any discrimination can be the small crack which can lead to the collapse of civilization and humanity. It's an obligation towards the victims of the Holocaust to fight discrimination and especially anti-Semitism. This is an active duty for everyone, especially also in a nation standing for human rights as Iceland does. Commemoration of the Holocaust, also in Iceland, is therefore a way to do so. Let's cry out, never again. Never forget.
Now I would like to ask Mr. Rabbi Feldman, Chargé of the United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to join you on this solemn occasion, the day we choose to honor the victims and survivors of the Holocaust. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for hosting this important event. It's an honor, and I'm humbled to join you, Ambassador Becker of the German Embassy, and Rabbi Feldman, as we solemnly remember and honor the 6 million lives tragically lost during the Nazi era. The United States stands in solidarity with the Jewish people in America, here in Iceland, and around the world as we remember and reflect on the horrors of the Holocaust. An estimated 6 million Jews perished alongside millions of other innocent victims: Roma, Slavs, disabled persons, LGBTQ+ individuals, and other marginalized communities. Millions of human beings were systematically murdered by the Nazis and their collaborators due to their ethnicity, their sexual orientation and identity, their physical disabilities, their political affiliation, in one of the cruelest and most heinous campaigns in human history. We honor the memories of life lost, reflect on the incomprehensible wound to our humanity, mourn for the communities broken and scattered, and embrace those who survived the Holocaust. Some Holocaust survivors are still with us today, continuing to embody extraordinary resilience after all these years. Having borne witness to the depths of evil, these survivors remind us of the vital refrain, never again. The history of the Holocaust is forever seared into the history of humankind. It's the shared responsibility of all people to ensure the horrors of the Holocaust are never erased from our collective memory. I grew up in an era when the memory and tragedies of World War II were still very much alive. I was grateful to live in a society dedicated to the goals of liberty and justice for all. But it's not enough to seek a haven from evil. Since the end of World War II, the United States has remained committed to ensuring that Jewish people and all of the peoples of the world can live free from fear. I recognize that it's painful to remember. It's human nature to want to leave the past behind. But the horror of the Holocaust imposes a duty on humanity to remember. We must fulfill this duty in order to prevent such an event from ever happening again. This solemn duty demands that we counter any attempt to cast doubt on the Holocaust. On his very first day as our Secretary of State, on January 27th, which coincided with the 76th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, Secretary of State Tony Blinken challenged us to, quote, speak the truth about the past, to protect the facts when others try to distort or trivialize Holocaust crimes, and to seek justice for their survivors and their families. We are blessed to live and work in a country such as Iceland, one with its incredible respect for democratic principles, individual liberties, and the rule of law. But no one should doubt that evil walks among us. Evil is real. We have seen how leaders in other parts of the world can fan the flames of hatred for personal gain. It's too easy to place all of the responsibility for crimes against humanity solely upon those who commit and encourage them, and to ignore our responsibility. Albert Einstein put it well when he said, the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. The world needs us to find the courage not only to confront evil with force, but to challenge it through the power of love, to say in a loud refrain, never again. While hate may never be permanently defeated, it must always be confronted and condemned. When we recognize the fundamental human dignity of all people, we help to build a more just and peaceful world. In memory of all those who were lost, and in honor of all of those who survived, we must continue to work toward a better, freer, and more just future for all humankind. I wish to conclude my remarks by quoting from President Biden's proclamation on the 2021 Days of Remembrance of Victims of the Holocaust. As the President said, we have a moral imperative to recognize the pain survivors carry to support them, and to ensure that their memories and experiences of the Holocaust are neither denied nor distorted, and that the lessons for all humanity are never forgotten. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to ask Rabbi Feldman, Rabbi, to take the stage.
The famous Holocaust survivor, writer, and professor Elie Wiesel said in his Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech in December of 1986, "We must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. Sometimes we must interfere. When human lives are endangered, when human dignity is in jeopardy, national borders and sensitivities become irrelevant. Wherever men or women are persecuted because of their race, religion, or political views, that place must, at that moment, become the center of the universe." Friends, it's important that we take the time to stop and think to ourselves at some point in our lives, or from time to time, if I was there, where would I stand? Would I stand up for the people who were being beaten? Would I have the courage to fight for those who were being oppressed and murdered? Or would I stand on the sidelines and mind my own business? Would I simply flow with the popular political position of the time and allow it to continue? Or worse, assist the oppressors? Those of you tuning in tonight, your participation in this event shows your support, your care and commitment to stand up for what is right. It shows that you believe in making this world a better place. Germany in the 1930s was the center of the world in math, science, art, poetry, and music. And yet, it was possible for the Holocaust to take place. How could it be? Chaim Ginot, a survivor, said the following: "I am a survivor of a concentration camp. My eyes saw what no man should witness. Gas chambers built by learned engineers. Children poisoned by educated physicians. Infants killed by trained nurses. Women and babies shot and burned by high school and college graduates. So I'm suspicious of education. My request is, help your students become human. Your efforts must never produce monsters, skilled psychopaths, educated Eichmanns. Reading, writing, and mathematics are important only if they serve to make our children more humane." My friends, the quality that was missing leading up to the Holocaust was empathy. Empathy means that when someone cries, your heart aches. They raised children without the power of empathy. Very fine and cultured people didn't feel pain when others were suffering. Just a few days ago, we concluded the holiday of Passover, the celebration of the Exodus from the slavery in Egypt. Every year we tell the story and show gratitude for the miracles and for the gift of freedom. I'd like to point out a particular detail in the story. It's about the Jewish leader, Moses, or Moshe. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace as a gifted child and had everything one could possibly wish for. And yet, when he went out of the palace and saw his sisters and brothers suffering in slavery, he felt the pain. Ultimately, he would put his very life on the line to help his people. Friends, the most important thing we can do is raise our children to feel empathy, to care and feel for others, to recognize another's pain, and to stand up for them in their time of need. I'd like to conclude with a story. Elie Wiesel, one of the most eloquent witnesses of the Holocaust, came to meet the Lubavitcher Rebbe, leader of world Jewry. In a late-night meeting, Elie sat there pouring out his heart, and the Rebbe listened with great compassion. They spoke about matters of faith, belief in God after the Holocaust, and the future of Judaism. The Rebbe, from time to time, asked Elie, "Is there something I could do for you?" And Elie answered, "No." When the Rebbe asked again, he finally responded, "Yes, Rebbe, there is something you can do for me. You can teach me how to cry again. Because ever since I saw my father beaten to death, my wellspring of tears have dried up completely. Please teach me how to cry again." The Rebbe was silent for a moment and then said, "Yes, I could teach you how to cry again, but that's not enough. I will also teach you how to sing again." My friends, when we talk about the Holocaust, there is much to cry about, but that's not enough. We have to raise a generation that will know how to sing. We have to come together as people, as individuals, and sing in harmony. To create a society where there's joy and happiness, by giving every individual the respect and dignity they deserve. Together we can sing. Together we could continue the life and the legacy of all those who perished in the Holocaust. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to ask Ambassador Krakowski to deliver his speech.
Thank you. Dear guests, Poland was the first country to provide military resistance against totalitarianism in 1939 and was determined to fight until a complete victory on all fronts of the Second World War. Hitler's gory retaliations against any civilian and military resistance during the occupation of Poland caused a great deal of suffering of all the citizens. However, an important question that had caused general disbelief of the Western world was the systematic planned extermination of all nations, particularly of the Jewish population. Any attempts of aid, especially hiding citizens of Jewish descent, were met with extreme reprisals, most often death penalty. Many citizens that were hiding their Jewish neighbors were sentenced to death. Many Catholic priests and nuns helped by providing fake baptism certificates for Jewish children. The scope of the crime, the complete lack of rationale, does not fit into the categories of our norms of cognition, of our understanding the world. It seems that in order to understand what happened, we need to ask ourselves some fundamental questions. How could this be possible? How did that happen? What can we do to ensure it doesn't happen again? What happened in the world that some people for centuries first said to others, "You cannot practice your religion, then you cannot live among us. And finally, you cannot live because you are not human." Answering these questions, therefore, requires considering the attitude of societies towards the Jews, among whom they have lived for centuries, as well as looking at our contemporary relations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. So now we will start with the Q&A session, and I would like to once again remind that if you want to, you can ask the questions, and I will get them directly on my mobile phone. But we already have some questions. So the first question is to the Polish ambassador. Why Polish embassy decided to organize the Holocaust Memorial? What was the reason?
Simply, Poland could not ignore And the fact that 6 million people, Jews, were killed during the Second World War, because half of them, they were Polish citizens. That means half of the Holocaust victims, they were Polish citizens. And a lot of them, they were fighting in Polish uniforms of Polish army and for the freedom of Poland, Europe, and whole the world. And the graves of those heroes you can find in all Europe, at the cemeteries, war cemeteries, Polish war cemeteries, the graves marked with Star of David. Poland and Poles, we always commemorate our heroes, victims, especially of our citizens. And it doesn't matter of which origin, they were our citizens. And we will commemorate them always as a Poles and also as a Polish state. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. And now another question is to Chargé of the United States. So the question is, how does the State Department coordinate Holocaust-related policies and activities?
I think for many years now, the United States government, through the Department of State and other agencies, has tried to integrate education, awareness, and remembrance, as the rabbi said, to ensure that our interests overseas, together with allies and partners, are focusing on remembering, not only honoring the different individuals who suffer, but making sure, as the rabbi mentioned, that the memories are not forgotten. Let's focus on remembering the human dignity, for example, that the German ambassador mentioned, that these were individuals who had lives and were unique. It's been a fundamental part of our foreign policy for years, and I think it's going to continue to be so going forward.
Thank you very much. I'll just check if we have maybe more questions from public. So there's like one more question to the Chargé of the United States. What resources are available in the US if I want to learn more about the Holocaust?
I think if I wanted to learn more about the Holocaust, a great place to begin would be with the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, which is located in Washington, D.C. The museum's fundamental purpose is education, remembrance, and to honor the lives of the people who were lost, to give visitors through the online mechanisms, but also through in-visit persons, a chance to know firsthand and learn about the experiences with the goal of retaining memory and ultimately with the goal of ensuring that something horrific like that never happens again. So I think if you're looking for a one-stop shop place to start, I would recommend that you go and visit in person if you have the opportunity, the Holocaust Museum, or if not, do the online tour, because I find it very educational. It's quite moving, and I think it's one of the best contributions that we and others have made to ensuring that this horrific event doesn't happen again.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so now I will just once again check if we receive any more questions. But maybe I will have also question the panelists. Maybe you have some kind of a reflection, commentary you would like to make.
You can also check the Facebook feed to see if there's any comments there. I would agree with the Chargé d'Affaires very much so, about actually visiting and seeing a Holocaust museum. I can say personally, from my own experience, I'm the grandson of a Holocaust survivor. So of course I grew up reading books and hearing and learning a lot about the Holocaust. But the first time that it really hit home and I really connected with it was first when I visited the museum in Washington, D.C. And after that, when I had the opportunity to visit many cities in Poland, visited a few of the concentration camps, some of the other cemeteries and sites to see, and it was really at that moment when you're standing in the place that it feels like this is something real, happened to real people who had whole lives, hopes and dreams, families, careers. And when you see the buildings, you see the barbed wires, it's a completely different experience, and it really hits home. So I would highly encourage anyone who has the opportunity, like Chargé said, to try to see, in whatever way possible, the museum and other sites and places whenever possible.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was just checking also on our web stream, but there is some comments, but there are no questions. So basically, I think that we can now close the Q&A session. And at the end, I would like to also invite Luca Denfra to play one song by Rubinstein. Thank you very much. our event. First of all, I would like to thank you all panelists for very interesting speeches. It was really, really very interesting, very interesting and touching to listen to all of your speeches. And then I would like to also thank you or our online audience. And of course, you are also welcome to ask the questions afterwards. And I'm sure that, of course, our panelists will answer those questions after as well. Thank you very much.